Brought to you by the Good Health Stores in Hanover and Quincy. Call Mark at 781-837-4900 with your health and nutrition questions. Now, here's Mark.
Good evening and welcome. Catherine Foley, say hello to everybody out there.
Good evening.
How are you doing?
Very good, thank you.
And we know everybody out there is hunkered down, relaxed, herb tea in hand.
Yeah.
We've got an interesting program for you this evening regarding an interesting aspect of heart disease. So many folks, of course, have been brainwashed into believing that heart disease is all about cholesterol and statins. Mm-hmm. Not quite. We have some very different perspectives. Catherine, I know that you've helped a lot of folks over the years with anticoagulant, anti-inflammatory support.
Right. It's, actually quite the opposite. We're going to find out, in the next year or so that cholesterol is viably important for your body, and a lot of these medications that cut the metabolism of cholesterol are doing a lot more harm than they are good.
No question about it. Most folks have, of course, fallen prey to that whole concept of demonizing cholesterol. And in fact, cholesterol really insulates cells.
Yeah.
It waterproofs cells, protects cells from virus, germ, etc. So you're absolutely right about that. I think even the American Medical Association has shown some interest in the whole concept of inflammation and anticoagulant support, of course.
Yeah.
So, I think the key here really is that folks want to really understand that there are some safe, viable alternatives for anticoagulation.
Right. And heart disease is one of those things that, the cardiovascular system is so critical to your whole body. So
right.
It's something that we need to incorporate into a preventative schedule of maintenance. And, because cardiologists will always say the first sign of cardiovascular disease is a heart attack. So
right.
it's like one of those silent killers that, unfortunately, as soon as you know about it, it's on top of you.
Well, over 920,000 people will have a heart attack this year.
Wow.
So there's an awful lot of burdened hearts out there. And I think a lot of folks really need to get the concept in mind that there's an awful lot that you can do about all that.
Right.
And there's a great deal of preventive support. We're going to talk about a lot of interesting studies regarding some of these over-the-counter natural alternatives that folks can gain access to very easily to really dramatically lower risks and help manage these very serious conditions. One of the things that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about lumbrokinase. We're also going to talk about SOD.
Yeah.
Something that Jaro has, of course, a really terrific SOD product.
We have a nice one. We have a SOD Synergy, which is a really nice blend of several different compounds that lead into that antioxidant pathway in your body.
Right. Well, heart disease and stroke, which is really what we're talking about, the most common form of cardiovascular diseases. And the first and third leading causes of death for both men and women in the United States, accounting for 35% of all deaths. And more than 870,000 Americans die of heart disease and stroke every year, which is about 2,400 people a day.
Right.
Astounding numbers. So, when we talk about this horrible, horrible dread disease, more than 80 million, or 1 in 3 Americans currently live with one or more types of cardiovascular disease. So, you get 73 million people with high blood pressure, 5.8 million who have suffered strokes, and 5.3 million with heart failure. So, what is this cardiovascular disease issue? What is this incredible conflict of interpretations here? And there is indeed. What is the primary cause? That's what folks want to know.
Right.
And according to the present, I emphasize present medical orthodoxy, it's all about cholesterol, which has really been demonized here.
Yeah, it really has been, and it's a dangerous premise because now we're looking at cholesterol as the marker of disease, which it actually is not. There are two types of cholesterol. There's HDL cholesterol and LDL cholesterol. And LDL cholesterol is the bad cholesterol. And we want to keep that low, and we want to keep the ratio healthy. But we tend to look at cholesterol as an overall measure.
Right. And
the AMA continually reduces the the ratio of cholesterol for safe limits. So, I met a gentleman in a health food store not too long ago, and, he said he had his physical last year, and his cholesterol levels were fine, but now this year they're not, but they're the same, and it was because the AMA had lowered the levels. And, I always ask people to take a step back and think about how they fit in this picture, and if they lower the levels another 10 points, now they have 10 million new customers. So, it's always, unfortunately, we don't have a healthcare system that's nonprofit. So,
well, I think too that when you talk about this cholesterol confusion, that there is an interesting point to it, and that is that we know that the atherosclerotic plaques are ultimately what makes that poor heart work too hard in so many of these events. And, of course, cholesterol attaches itself to the plaques.
Absolutely.
So cholesterol's been really, unfortunately, kind of roped in guilt by association here.
Right, it has been. And then the plaques also, calcium in your bloodstream is attracted to those plaques. And, typically now what happens is we're getting calcification of the arteries at a very young age. And what happens is that if one of those plaques breaks away, you now have a traveling embolism, and this is what is causing the extreme increase in the incidence of strokes.
Well, and the body will send calcium to any stress area of the body. If there's cancer in a local area of the body, if there's damaged arteries, part of that repair work is the body sends fibrin, different repair proteins, and it sends calcium to these areas to try to buffer it and heal it up. And it creates this kind of healing paste.
Right.
And unfortunately, when those pastes build up and break off, that's when you have these arterial accidents. And realistically, I think we need to kind of understand that cholesterol is again, guilt by association here because it'll attach itself to these plaques. So it's all about inflammatory disease. That is where we're headed here.
Yeah, and we'll, I'm sure we'll talk later, but the endothelial tissue inside of the artery, I often tell people when there's damage that occurs to tissue, your body has one healing mechanism, and that's the inflammatory process.
That's right.
You can look at the inside of a blood vessel wall just the same as you would the surface of your skin. If you get a cut or a scratch or some sort of burn or damage to the tissue, you can see the scar formation, you can see the healing process. And this is what happens on the inside of the artery wall. And there's natural solutions out there, like the GPLC carnitine, that we'll talk about, that basically reduces the inflammation in that endothelial tissue. And supports healthy contraction.
Well, in the kind of inflammation that causes this dread heart disease is really hormonal for the most part as well. In other words, the clotting factors that we're talking about here in this occlusive environment of the arteries. And we're talking about thromboxane A2. And when these thromboxane A2 hormones are highly concentrated, there's just, you're creating blood mud, as we always say. And the objective is to thin the blood. So what orthodoxy has found is the orthodox medicine, of course, that we're all familiar with, has decided that taking an aspirin every day, and taking the various blood thinners like the warfarin, which is, of course, Coumadin, heparin, these are the directions that so many of these patients are steered into. And I think the message this evening is, folks, when you hear about the side effects of these even aspirin, I'm going to talk about the side effects with aspirin as well, and the truth about aspirin. And when folks hear about this, and then when they hear about what the alternatives are, there are such safe, viable, accessible, affordable, effective alternatives. There's just no reason in the world why folks should be as troubled as they are about these issues. In fact, in many other nations in Europe, Southeast Asia, they're using these medicines and having great success.
Absolutely. Germany, Japan. In Japan, the number one supplement is coenzyme Q10, number one, because they know that it's, the key to longevity for the cardiovascular system.
Right. Well, we're going to talk about your heart, your bloodstream, how to keep that blood thin in a healthy, side effect-free way. We've got some wonderful alternatives. Stay right where you are.
This is Catherine from Jarrow Formulas. We're happy to have continued our relationship with Mark Nicola in the Health and Healing Show, and we're happy to announce a new product from Jarrow Formulas called Jarrow Cell. We all know that as the body ages, it heals less rapidly and becomes frailer. Often the body is unable to process enough nutrients to repair weakening cartilage and protein fibers. A very important element in building and repairing your body is silicone. But unfortunately, as we grow, you may have difficulty absorbing adequate silicone from your diet. But now, thanks to a product called Jarosil, you can be sure to get your share. Jarosil can give you the silicone you need to support your bone health, bone mineral density, and in addition, Jarosil strengthens and beautifies your hair, skin, and nails. Jarosil is available now in a synergistic liquid formula that also includes boron and zinc. Ask for Jarosil at your local health food stores. Or for more information, you can go to the Jaro website, which is www.jaro.com.
Right in our area, we are fortunate to have one of the top martial arts schools in the country, Personal Best Karate. Personal Best has been recognized for their community involvement, professional staff development, character building programs, and exciting educational curriculum. Personal Best stands at the top of their industry. 5 locations offering personalized professional instruction. Not sure if karate is right for you? At no obligation, the staff at Personal Best will guide you in a private introductory program to see if karate is indeed the right fit to help you achieve your goals and meet your needs. What does karate at Personal Best teach you? Character building, success habits, helps you get in shape, relieve stress, self-control, setting goals, and of course, self-defense. Personal Best's goal is to create successful, contributing members of society through the practice of the martial arts at Personal Best. Mr. Chris Rappold is, of course, the founder of Personal Best Karate. He tells me his greatest joy of all is to see the personal transformation in each and every student. Bring out your best with Personal Best Karate. Telephone number 508-285-5425. That's 508-285-5425. Locations in Norton, Foxborough, Southeaston, Franklin, and Taunton. That's Personal Best Karate.
Alrighty, welcome back in. Of course, Catherine Foley from Jar Formulas here with us this evening.
Hello.
Per usual. Helping us to accent all the highs and dot the I's.
You know, I always feel whenever I could be really tired or have had a really busy week, but I come here to the studio and I always feel like when I leave, I feel like I just worked out in the gym or something.
It is true. When I leave here every Sunday night, I feel so uplifted.
Yeah.
It's great stuff, and largely because of you.
Well.
Anyway, we're talking with folks about, I think, a really important perspective because, of course, everybody knows that heart disease is the number one killer. And, of course, it's no deep, dark secret that there's a major emphasis to try to win the battle against this dread disease in many different ways. And there have been an awful lot of, I think, detours that we've taken along the route. One of them, of course, in my opinion, would be the statin approach to just feeling like, hey, if we can just get all that cholesterol out of somebody's body, we're all set. And that's really not even a tip of the iceberg, folks.
You know, unfortunately, the cholesterol is the key, as you had mentioned, to cell membrane. And, you know, this is really your body's ability to keep itself going. If you're reducing the integrity of the cell membrane, you're just reducing the body's ability to repair and just function properly. And then also, you know, cholesterol is the base molecule in your body for a lot of hormones, and some of those hormones being some of the neurotransmitters. So some of the side effects that happen for people that are on statins are depression and, you know, loss of libido and vigor and endurance. And it's really sad. I see people all the time that are hit with these major issues and they don't know why. And it just kind of makes them start to feel like, oh, I'm really starting to go downhill, when it's really just the side effects. And,
you're absolutely right.
You know.
Well, and there's no question about the fact that this is really about arterial disease, you know, about the clotting factor of the blood. It's really about the quality of the blood. And, of course, you know, the Chinese medicine for centuries said, hey, look, quality of the blood has everything to do with the liver and gallbladder function. Yeah. Of course, you know, even ancient forms of Western medicine appreciated that, and only in recent years have we kind of minimized the liver's role as far as heart disease and so many other problems. But anyway, we know that there's no question about the risk factors being associated with obesity, inactivity, diabetes, high blood pressure, insulin resistance, high lipid levels, low HDLs, elevated C-reactive protein, smoking, family histories, yada yada. That stuff is all very clear to most folks. But diet is the first thing I really wanted to talk about. We're talking about inflammation, that literally thickens that blood and makes it so difficult for the heart to really work with that kind of very thick, heavy viscosity in the blood. We're talking about a hormone called thromboxane A2. We're talking about icosanoid 2s, and for anybody that's keeping score out there, it's all about avoiding egg yolks, red meat, dairy, peanuts, sugar, highly processed starches, white flours, things like that.
Yeah.
And that's really, didn't we just kind of go over the American staple? I mean,
yeah, it really
the kids start off with peanut butter, jelly, and white bread. There's your sugar, your white flour, and your peanuts. And then we think we're doing better on Sundays, and we finally get the kids to sit down when we have time and make them a nice bacon and egg breakfast every Sunday morning. So, but listen, it is true, folks, that we really have become culturally ingrained in this whole concept of creating blood that has a very heavy clotting quality to it, largely as a result of our dietary choices.
Yeah, and believe it or not, when you eat foods that are not good for your body, your heart rate will increase.
Right.
And so a lot of people, I always ask people when we start talking about heart disease, is I always ask people, what is your resting heart rate? Most people don't know. Our resting heart rate should be about 60 beats per minute.
Yep.
And the more conditioned and the more healthy your body is,
right,
you can do exercise or normal activities, and your heart rate really should stay pretty consistent.
Fairly stable.
Yeah, and, pro athletes like Lance Armstrong, he can, do all of his races, and his heart rate is stable and it is strong, and
right,
that is a sign of a good heart. So
I remember reading years ago in the Kenneth Cooper books. Remember the aerobic books from the armed forces that were so popular way back when. And Kenneth Cooper talked about how they studied every athlete in the world to find out the ones that had the lowest heart rate and the strongest hearts. And they found that the Nordic skiers from Scandinavia they had a resting heart rate of between 30 and 40 beats per minute.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just incredible.
This is where we should be, and
this is where we should be.
A lot of the kind of like the Eastern practices are coming to the U.S. and becoming pop culture. And when you look at a lot of those practices like yoga and meditation, all of these things are focused around slowing the heart rate down.
Yes.
And toning the body and strengthening the body. So I always tell people to really, your heart really talks to you a lot.
Yep.
To start listening. I was just out visiting family, and we went to an Asian restaurant, and I think there was MSG in the food, and my heart rate went up to about 100 beats per minute. And then I looked over at my brother, and we're the same person. I looked at him, and I was like,
he didn't
"Is your
feel
heart?"
well either, yeah.
Yeah, I said, "Is your heart racing?" And he said, "Yeah." So it really can tell you a lot.
Sure, it does. Well, we clearly know that point number one, heart disease is the number one killer and the number one health concern really in the world. We know that number two, that one of the major reasons that we want to begin to really start thinking about here as far as the causal factors of heart disease is the blood quality and the clotting factor. And the inflammatory quality, of course, brings us to point number three, which is diet. And again, instead of just simply rushing to put people on aspirin and Coumadin and heparin and blood thinners, we need to talk to them about cutting down on egg yolks, red meat, dairy, peanuts, and sugar products.
Right.
And then number four, I think that we need to appreciate, too, that there are actually those foods that can help to anti-inflame our blood, to thin our blood. You know, one of the reasons we talk to people about soy, or one of the reasons we talk to people about things like, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, again, as we say, soy products, fatty fish, flax, is that these are the foods that actually help thin some of that thromboxane A2 and really move us into an anti-inflammatory, anticoagulant response.
Right. They move us along, again, also that positive,
Absolutely.
pathway where we're not going into the arachidonic acids that are pro-inflammatory, with the unhealthy fats. So like a lot of trans fats or animal fats send your body into producing arachidonic acid. Mm-hmm. Arachidonic acid is like the kill switch in your body's metabolism, your body's biochemistry.
Yep. Well, and again, what generally happens, unfortunately, these days. Folks run into these high-risk factors with very inflamed, clotting, rich blood, very coagulated blood, and the physician will not, unfortunately, in most cases, talk to them about diet and nutrition. Instead, they will elect to generally try to thin some of that blood. There are 800,000 Americans that are put on Coumadin each year, nearly 1 million a year. It's the number one, of course, medical choice for anticoagulation and blood thinning. Very difficult to regulate. I can't tell you the number of patients that I've seen over the years. I continue to see them in droves who are not regulated, and they're, in many cases, dangerously mismanaged. It's not easy to regulate.
No, it's not, and usually, typically, dementia comes along with that.
Well, and of course, we're going to talk about some of those side effects are really very serious, dementia being one of those. But in August of 2007, the FDA said that those with specific gene makeups of CYP2C9 or VKORC1, which are two very rare gene makeups, they may be prescribed even higher doses of Coumadin or warfarin, which is what the technical name of Coumadin is. And so there are folks out there now that are actually being put on extremely high doses because they do have those genes. And what are the why would somebody be put on warfarin or put on Coumadin? Obviously, a blood clot in or near your heart could trigger a stroke, a heart attack, or organ damage. Blood clot in your lungs, which could trigger a pulmonary embolism event. Any other kind of blood clots elsewhere in the body could trigger an event with venous thrombosis. High risk of blood clots forming in the heart, such as atrial fibrillation. A lot of folks with AFib out there due to that. A mechanical heart valve that's prone to forming clots as well. Those are generally the reasons why folks would be put on warfarin or Coumadin. What are some of the side effects? Severe bleeding from the rectum or black stool, skin conditions such as hives or rash or itching, swelling of the face, throat, mouth, legs, feet, or hands, bruising that comes about without an injury, chest pain or pressure, nausea, vomiting, fever or flu-like symptoms, joint or muscle aches, diarrhea, difficulty moving, numbness and tingling in various parts of your body, feeling cold, fatigue, pale, loss of taste, hair loss. So there are a number of folks, obviously, 800,000, nearly 1 million Americans a year that face the possibility of these side effects. I've had an awful lot of folks who don't understand that something like Coumadin will not just thin the blood, but it will thin the blood pathways, the arterial pathways. And if somebody is deficient in vitamin P to begin with, and the lumen capillary tend to rupture, and you put somebody on this really high concentration of this very, very active medication, they run the risk actually of, ironically, creating what they're trying to avoid, which is a stroke.
Yeah, absolutely.
Creating a hemorrhaging response by breaking down and thinning, not just the blood, folks, but the blood walls, the arterial walls.
Yeah, see, because this is how the blood vessels have this really dynamic, life where they speak to the blood, they speak to the volume of the blood, and the pressure inside of your blood vessel talks to the endothelial tissue, tells it to either increase in size or decrease in size. So when you thin the blood too much,
that's right,
you're talking to the wall
that's
of
right,
that blood vessel,
yes,
telling the wall of that blood vessel, thin out.
Well, and there are many drugs that interact negatively with Coumadin. Aspirin, ibuprofen, Tylenol, obviously many antibiotics, heparin, cold and allergy medicines, birth control pills, heart arrhythmia medications. So we also have to be careful in many cases with supplements that folks are taking. Fish oils, omega-3 supplements, vitamin K, bromelains, CoQ10, cranberry extracts, dong quai, which is an herbal medicine, natural herbal supplement, garlic, of course, ginkgo, ginseng, St. John's wort. So, you have to be so careful, even about the foods that you eat. Soy, canola oil, spinach, broccoli, garlic, licorice, cranberries, cranberry juice, kale, so many of your green spinaches and all that stuff. So, you've really got yourself highly restricted in a very, very active medication that can, in many cases, like we say, cause an awful lot of very serious issues. So what are folks to do, about an alternative? I suggest that they do some searching and some researching on lumbrokinase, Lumbrokinase, lumbrokinase. And lumbrokinase is a blood thinner. It's an anticoagulant. that is actually found in earthworms.
Yeah.
And it's been used for thousands of years, and the Chinese, of course, have written extensively about it. In 1883, in a book discussing the action of worms, Charles Darwin observed that earthworms' digestive fluids can dissolve fibrin.
Yeah.
So the Western world in the late 1880s started to discover what the Chinese have known for centuries, that there is a component in the earthworm that actually has the ability to break down fiber. And the really good news about lumbrokinase is now it's a very well-formulated, pharmaceutically graded supplement over the counter that folks can obtain. Supports healthy coagulation of blood within normal levels, enhances fibrinolytic activity, and it supports healthy blood viscosity within normal levels. So, I mean, this is a natural way without side effects. When you hear about just how safe it is, we're going to talk about just how safe it is. Very powerful, healthy blood thinning agent from Mother Nature that has virtually no side effects, and it's got no contraindications.
We have one that is similar to that. It's a similar form, different source. It's from the natto soybean. Natto is a fermented soy.
The nattokinase.
Kinase. And if you go to a real traditional Japanese restaurant, they will have natto on the menu, and it's the same thing. Natto digests, fibrin clots in the blood, and they use it in Japan as traditional therapy for blood issues, for heavy blood issues.
Well, and I think too that folks need to understand that there are options like the nattokinase, the serrapeptase, bromelain, of course, white willow bark. You could walk into virtually any health food store and, grapeseed extract, the OPC3 concentrates, pycnogenol. These are all wonderful blood thinners.
Well, I've been working in this industry for a long time, and I can't tell you how many people I have met that will say, I have, heart stuff going on, I need some CoQ10 or need something, but I'm on blood thinners, so I can't have anything with vitamin K in it.
Can't eat my greens.
Which is, and then I say to them, vitamin K is a blood thinner, so, have you ever considered not taking the prescription blood thinner and maybe doing the natural one? So there's options out there. It's, I would rather see people take something that is natural because it's more dynamic. It works with your body in a biochemical way where you're not overdosing or underdosing or, things like that. It's different. So, I'm always astonished when people are like, I can't take any vitamin K because I'm on blood thinners.
It's
I'm
incredible.
Like, maybe you want to get off of those and
the
take
potential,
vitamin K.
and not only the difficulty with which you have to live your life and eat, etc., but there's so many, as we pointed out, contraindications and cautions.
So scary.
So difficult to regulate. It is very frightening. When, in fact, again, you've got lumbrokinase, which is a group of proteolytic enzymes extracted from the earthworm, and it includes plasminogen activator and plasmin. And these exhibit a thrombolytic activity only in the presence of fibrin. That's the other interesting thing. In other words, if there isn't a problem, you don't have to worry about it.
Right.
If there is a problem, they'll activate. If there's not, they won't overdrive your resources into side effect problems. So the mode of action is very, very, very effective with this lumbrokinase. It's been used in over 100 hospitals in Beijing. It's been used in thousands of hospitals in 20 different provinces in China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Southeast Asia, and Europe. And there have been over 60,000 people who have received lumbrokinase without any side effects.
No problem.
60,000 people without side effects. So quite efficient, and again, the availability is there. I know Good Health has a number of different lumbrokinase supplements. And here's the interesting thing about it. You can actually, the research says, if taken with anticoagulant drugs, it won't cause any kind of contraindication. So, I mean, come on, how safe does it get?
Absolutely, you're so right.
Absolutely true. Hey, bottom of the hour here, and we've got a very special guest coming in here to talk to us about some interesting things from Good Health Natural Foods. So we're going to take a short little break, and we'll be right back.
Hi there, this is Mark Mincole, the Natural Health and Healing Show. I know that so many of you out there are passionate about the latest cutting-edge nutritional information, would like to go on to that next level. I'm proud to announce that our new natural health care offices in Cohasset are offering personalized nutritional consultations. At Santi Holistic Healing, you'll experience an informative, individualized nutritional consultation by one of my finest personally trained nutritional experts. Your consultant will test you for specific food allergies and supplements. Together, you will chart out a personalized, optimal nutritional roadmap that will detail your healthiest foods and nutritional supplements, even specific doses. If that's not enough, we also offer relaxing healing massage at Santi Holistic Healing. Whether it's nutritional consulting or healing massage that you're interested in, we at Santi Holistic Healing are prepared to give you the healing experience of a lifetime. Call us at 781-383-3393. That's 781-383-3393 for the healing experience of a lifetime.
Are you feeling a little sluggish this time of year? Can't seem to get going in the morning or feel a little sleepy in the afternoon? Well, we have the perfect remedy, an informative talk and shopping excursion about eating for energy with nutritionist Dr. Ann Doggett, D.C. Dr. Ann of Whole Body Solutions, 605 Hancock Street in Quincy, will explain the importance of whole food nutrition, focus on high-energy foods, and provide tips for keeping a food journal. She'll walk you through the Whole Foods Market in Hingham, pointing out what you should and shouldn't be eating to sustain energy. You'll be skipping through the aisles with a renewed confidence in your shopping, as well as a complete shopping list and easy-to-prepare recipes. That's at the Whole Foods Market in Hingham, Wednesday, February 18th, 7 to 8:30 p.m. Registration is free. Simply call Whole Foods today to reserve your spot. 781-741-8050. That's 781-741-8050. Or get more details at drann.com. Reserve today.
Alrighty, welcome back. And, of course, typically at this time, it's the Candida time. And
that's right. But I couldn't pronounce what was going to go on tonight, so I figured I'd bring in a guest.
So we brought in a guest to see if we couldn't muddle through some of this with a little backup. Nick Mincola.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And Nick, of course, for folks who are familiar with Good Health Natural Foods, you see him down there at Good Health Natural Foods. So he's sort of our liaison with Good Health Natural Foods. And Nick, of course, is my number one son, and he's someone who is actually working at Good Health Natural Foods, but he's also looking to pursue a career in acupuncture.
Yes, sir.
So he is presently attending the New England School of Acupuncture.
I am.
So I'm looking forward to getting needled by him in a different way.
Excellent.
So let's talk about what's going on at Good Health in terms of the world of blood thinning and anticoagulation. Easy for me to say, anticoagulation.
Right on. Just wanted to let the listeners know that there's some products at Good Health that are quite popular amongst the customers that are being heralded for their anti-inflammatory and anticoagulant properties. As was mentioned earlier, the serrapeptase, the nattokinase, and the lumbrokinase as well. The serrapeptase, there's a couple options for you. We have the Source Naturals, very popular, available in the 60 gel caps, I believe, at $18.10, and that's 500 milligrams. It's also available in 120 count, and that comes at $34.48, again, 500 milligrams. With respect to the nattokinase, of course, the most superior formula and value is with Jarrow, the Natto Max, at a 90 count, $24 even.
He's looking for those little chewable DHAs. That's what
yes, I am.
He's got the whole store chewing those little DHAs.
They're excellent. And that comes at 100 milligrams. And, of course, the lumbrokinase by Nutraceutical, Nutraceutical, and that's a 60 count for $58. That comes at 60,000 IUs, which is the equivalency of 40 milligrams.
Right.
We do also have, as always, the grapeseed extract and the pycnogenol as well.
Well, and one other thing I wanted to mention, too, is that there's a Jarrow formula that I think is really important to bring into this equation. And I'm going to do this real quick little bit here before. I was looking at International Wellness Directory, and if I just may read a little bit of this. We do not get heart attacks because we do not have enough aspirin in our bloodstream. We get heart attacks because we lack proper nutrition, proper lifestyles that cause us to be hypercoagulable. not to mention the inflammations in our bloodstream adding to this condition. The aspirin studies done were not using buffered aspirin. When plain aspirin was used in these studies, the results were not the same. Plain aspirin alone was almost as worthless as shoe polish in preventing heart attacks. One of the main ingredients in buffered aspirin is magnesium. We get heart attacks because we do not have enough magnesium in our bloodstream. Magnesium dilates blood vessels, aids potassium absorption, acts as a natural blood thinner, and keeps your blood cells from clumping together, causing thrombosis or clotting. So, another really terrific product that is one of my favorites is the Magnesium Optimizer jar formulas. Great product. You guys were ahead of the pack on that one because you combine magnesium citrate, potassium citrate, and, of course, taurine to help regulate the cell membranes. That's a terrific medicine. And Good Health Natural Food sells that as well.
We absolutely do.
So you guys are doing good business down there, and we've got plenty of folks buying up the OPC3s. We should talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. There's a lot of people coming in requesting that stuff, and, of course, we have it for them available.
And for folks who are interested in blood thinning, of course, OPC3s, grapeseed extracts, real important, 100 milligrams of grapeseed extract 3 times a day will outperform. We're going to talk about a study in a little while that proved that outperformed aspirin as a blood thinner.
Well,
outperformed it. And, of course, no side effects. So I think that's kind of a nice touch. Good Health Natural Foods, of course, Candida's going to tell us exactly where they're located.
I have a brain freeze tonight. Hanover and Quincy. Give me the address, Mark. Columbia Road and Hancock Street.
Yes, indeed. Columbia Road and Hancock. No,
it's like
actually,
second home to me. So.
1627 Hancock Street and 219 Columbia Road. That's Route 53 in Hanover. If you want to call them down in Hanover, Nick, it's 781-826-0808, possibly? 0808 is what it is. You're usually on the other end of those calls.
That's right, I am.
And, of course, 617-773-4925.
Excellent.
For all things natural, it is.
Good Health Natural Foods.
Very good.
I was standing at the counter buying children's vitamins for my kids, and I was like, oh, God, I forgot the name of the show that Mark was going to do tonight. I should have asked him. And all of a sudden, it was like, I know what it is. I'm like, who are you? You look so different.
Well, it's been a while since you've seen him, but it was a great touch. I'm glad you invited him in.
Well, you're coming in.
We hope to have you in here a lot more.
Love to do it. Thanks again.
Great to have you here, and thanks for helping everybody down at Good Health Natural Foods.
Very good.
Love you.
Actually, it's going to be the second Sunday of every month.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm on it.
It's a good arrangement. I love it.
And we're going to see Nick also at your muscle testing.
Oh, good.
One-day intensive that we're putting together for Saturday, March 28th.
March 28th.
Expand your health and wellness practice, or simply just learn good health practices.
Catherine just came in on Friday. She had her first muscle testing appointment in the offices on Friday.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It was wonderful. She said her energy was open up that whole day.
Yeah.
It's great stuff. So we're going to show folks how to do that.
We are, and this is your very own system that you developed, the Life Force Healing System. It's going to be Saturday from 9 to 6 at the Coastal Church. So if folks are interested in this one-day intensive muscle testing course, they could sign up before February 29th for only $275.
So bring your muscles.
Bring your muscles and your brains.
Absolutely. We look forward to that. And folks interested in finding out more about it, of course, can contact Candida.
Yes, it's 781-834-2728. And we're going to concentrate on the mind medicine, the life force analysis system, the muscle testing, and the energetic root references of illnesses.
Absolutely.
So who is the ideal person to come to this class?
Well, I think anybody who's perhaps an allied health professional, anybody who is interested in and impassioned about the whole concept that medicine is really about self-empowerment. It's about advancing your own knowledge and wisdom about health, well-being, and life. It's about anybody who embraces the concept of wholeness and holism, that understands how your thoughts and your emotions affect your cells. Folks who really appreciate that they are very subtle, energetic beings, that they have an awful lot going on, that they don't gain, that they don't get a lot of appreciation for in the world. So I think folks who really want to go to that next level of understanding self and taking care of the self, and their family, of course.
And their family. So moms are welcome, dads
Why not?
are welcome.
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we just want folks who are impassioned to really fuel their knowledge about seeking a new direction.
Right. Now, there's going to take some practice with this, too. It's not
Oh,
just
of course. We're going to give them a good workout. We're going to give them a lot of, handouts, booklets, and visuals and all that stuff. We're going to really do a great crash course so that they leave there with a really good cursory understanding of what to do. And then we, of course, I think, expect them to do their homework.
Okay. Are there any books beforehand you think folks should pick up?
I think that we've got enough information that by the end of that intensive, I think they're pretty covered.
Great.
Well, thanks so much, both of you.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Catch you again.
All right, guys. All right, Larry did find a Nick song. I mean, usually that's the Candida song because for obvious reasons, but we salute Nick Mincola. All right. As we were before that break, we're saying that the whole concept of aspirin, I think, needs to be better understood. That randomized clinical trials testing aspirin in 5,000 elderly people in a recent study, 58 of whom were women, mean age of 72, followed a mean of 4.2 years, showed that the use of aspirin caused a 4-fold increase in hemorrhagic stroke. And a 1.8-fold increase in ischemic stroke.
Right.
So, folks, really, again, there's an awful lot to be thinking about here. From the World Chiropractic Alliance in February of 1999, we get patients with blockage of arteries to the brain are 3 times more likely to have a stroke if indeed they are taking aspirin. Dyspepsia and gastrointestinal hemorrhage occur in 31% of those taking 300 milligrams of aspirin per day. Even low doses of aspirin can lead to increased risk of brain hemorrhage. Other side effects include anemia, bleeding ulcers, confusion, dizziness, and numerous other problems. So again, it's not a slam dunk, folks. I think most people are sort of somnambulantly led into the belief that everything is okay if they're just taking those aspirin. And I listen, if you're going to take any form of aspirin, I say you take a buffered aspirin if you're going to do that, because as we said earlier, the studies have made it very, very clear that the only safe, effective aspirin will be buffered.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, one of my biochem professors was a PhD cardiologist, and she was amazing. I mean, just old school, she was just really well educated, and it's worth mentioning that the standard protocol for heart attack patients and, patients with like high blood pressure or what have you, the standard protocol used to be magnesium citrate. Mm-hmm. And when somebody went to the hospital presenting with a heart attack, they would stat IV magnesium citrate therapy. So, we often say, the Western medicine, the applications have become different.
Yes.
The practice was at one time a lot more natural. And if you look in the PDR, the physician's desk reference, you will still find things like vitamin K as a treatment for blood thinning. And then you'll find things like the magnesium citrate therapy. And you'll find things like N-acetylcysteine. They use it for people when they have blood toxicities. So it's just, that's so powerful to look back in time and see that these were standard practice.
Well, in 1999, the Associated Press ran an interesting piece, Death by Analgesics, and it listed the NSAIDs as the 15th most common cause of death in America.
Yeah, they are.
So they're not to be let off the hook all that easily here. And when you consider the fact that 80 million aspirins a day are taken and that 43 million Americans are taking 100 billion annually, 35 tons.
Are you serious?
Of aspirin. I mean, it's the most dispensed over-the-counter medication in this country.
Yeah.
And again, it's the 15th leading cause of death.
Wow.
It's crazy. Again, if you get no other message from this program, the aspirin studies that were done using buffered aspirin were the ones that basically showed positive results, and it's largely because buffered aspirin has magnesium. And as Catherine said, that's the key, really. So, I think you may obtain the illusion of pain relief, but, it's really important to understand how aspirins work. They do deaden the nerve endings. And by deadening the nerve endings, long-term aspirin use is sure to corrode those nerves and the entire nervous system, leading to central nervous pathologies. A lot of folks are now beginning to implicate long-term aspirin use with Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and even stroke. So, aspirin breaks down and converts into acetic acid in the body, which eats up red blood cells just like distilled white vinegar does. So, you got to understand what it is you're using here. I think Americans tend to kind of get in these kind of habits, these ruts, where just because everybody else out there is doing something, they feel it's pretty safe to do. What the heck, the whole culture's doing it, so I'll jump on board. I always talk about OPC3s, the proanthocyanidins, or bioflavonoids, which are very, very powerful radical scavengers. But, in 1948, Jacques Mascalier, of course, was the great researcher and the father of the OPC3s. Who found that they had this uncanny ability to strengthen blood vessel walls. And, of course, we found out, some years later through research that it's because of the nitric oxide in there. And it takes a tremendous pressure off those arterial walls. But in 1951, they basically found that when they extracted OPCs from pine bark, they found that the pycnogenol, of course, had a very different sort of set of capabilities. But they found that they had a greater ability to protect the anti-clotting effect even than aspirin. Dr. John Foltz, medical doctor who is at the University of Wisconsin Medical School, been focusing on the connection between OPC3s and heart disease. His research has suggested that the OPCs have more protective anti-clotting effect than aspirin, as we just said. And the figures that he came up with showed that aspirin and grapes, for example, had an anti-clotting activity of 45%. But then he said that went on to show a whopping 75% effect when he used grape juice in place of wine. Yeah. So, in other words, 75% more effective anti-clotting factor than aspirin, and that was done at the University of Wisconsin Medical School by Dr. John Foltz. So, again, folks just get into these kind of lazy, bad habits, trusting that this game of following the guy in front of you is a safe way to go.
Well, it's the easiest way to get hit crossing the street. It's just
exactly. So I think it's really important. One of the things that I did want to come back to here for a second too is I wanted to come back and just talk really briefly about the kinases. Yeah. The nattokinase and I think too the serrapeptase is a really wonderful medicine. Yeah. But the lumbrokinase is probably the most active. When you read the studies, the research on it, the lumbrokinase is very, very powerful as a blood thinner. But again, folks really have to appreciate that the lumbrokinase is not only powerful as an anticoagulant, but it's really safe. There's no contraindications in terms of you could be using, another anticoagulant or a medication that your doctor could have put you on. You could be using fish oils. You could be using white willow bark or pycnogenol, OPC3s, and there's no risk factor with it.
No.
And again, the reason for that is because the researchers found that if there was no fibrin present, then it basically didn't engage.
Yeah, well, that's where its activity, it's where it's like, that's its target, whereas
exactly.
Blood thinners are just an overall blanket,
So the idea that, we actually have available to us, and Good Health Natural Foods does have the lumbrokinase. It's LUMBROKINASE, and the dose, the safe way to work with it, the recommended doses on it would be 2 to 4 capsules a day, and is a dietary supplement. You want to take 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 2 before bed if you really have some very serious clotting problems. And if you want to thin that blood up a little bit. And again, when you look at some of the interesting research on it, it's virtually side effect free and non-toxic.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what the downside to using it is, and it escapes me. I haven't found that. So, we're talking about something that goes back to the ancient Chinese materia medica.
Right.
3,000 years ago, the Ben Cao Gong Ma, when it talked extensively about how the ancient Chinese found that within the earthworm there was a fluid that unblocks the body's channels and is best utilized for blood circulation. Here we are 3,000 years later, and it's just beginning to gain some sense of appreciation.
Yeah.
And as we said, in 1883, Charles Darwin noted that earthworms dissolve fibrin, or clotting factor, in blood. And in 1980, Japanese researchers discovered that there were 6 alkaline trypsin-like proteolytic enzymes, including the plasminogen activator and plasmin itself, enzymes in that earthworm that support the blood-thinning anticoagulation properties of the human biology. The way you can expect it to work based on the studies and based on the research, between an average of, 10 to 20% reduction in 4 weeks.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. And it varied. There were some folks that had a 21% reduction in 12 weeks, as high as a 33% reduction in 21 days. So on the higher end, there were folks that actually in research studies were able to reduce their blood coagulation response 33%, 1/3 in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, and again, without side effects.
Yeah.
And no contraindications, safe to use. And what does it do, folks? It lowers the blood viscosity, the platelet aggregation response, and thins that blood. And again, you don't have to worry about taking other things with it. And as I said earlier, when you're talking about, warfarin or Coumadin, you really have to be so. You really have to be so frightened about the difficulty with which it's managed and regulated.
Yeah, and if you look at the list of things that you went over that people shouldn't be taking when they're on Coumadin or warfarin, it's like those are all really healthy things, and those are not things you want to cut out of your diet.
Boy, you are not kidding. You know, exactly. I mean, I want to eat my spinach, Mom.
Right?
The other thing, too, I want to bring out here is that any patients who really are concerned with their clotting factors and really have this sort of ongoing heart disease issue to contend with, there's a couple simple monitoring processes that I would encourage you to ask of your physician, and that's the antiplasmin prothrombin fragment 1 and 2, as well as a thrombin antithrombin complex as well. So those are 2 really important tests that you want to basically monitor your condition with. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Laura from Good Health. Here's the thing. Why burn precious gas driving all over town to find what you need, only to spend more than you have to? At Good Health, you'll find it all. Clean, organic produce, natural groceries, vitamins, beauty items, and your holiday gifts. It's not rocket science. At Good Health, we keep it real. Great products at low, everyday prices. Simple and easy. Come by and see what I mean. Thanks for tuning in.
Don't miss the 9th Annual International Herb Symposium, celebrating the healing power of plants, June 19th through the 21st at Wheaton College in Norton, Mass. It's a symposium to touch your heart and soul, as well as your mind and spirit. This gathering is for all people, enraptured by the healing essence of herbs. Learn from an extraordinary gathering of herbal teachers, elders, and healers from around the world. There will be over 90 workshops for all levels of interest and experience, and over 50 teachers representing 12 countries. To register or for more information, call 802-479-9825. That's 802-479-9825. Or visit internationalherbsymposium.com. The 9th Annual International Herb Symposium, June 19th through the 21st at Wheaton College.
Alrighty, welcome back. And we've been talking with you about lumbrokinase, L-U-M-B-R-O, lumbro, L-U-M-B-R-O, K-I-N-A-S-E, lumbrokinase, to keep your blood thin and to do it in a safe, manageable way. Talk to your doctor about it and let them research it. Or you could do some research, bring that information in, and aid the education process and the growth and the expansion of consciousness regarding alternative medicine options.
Yeah, and that's what healthcare is. People, we need to make a change in healthcare is your healthcare. We've been in a culture for so many years that we just kind of we put our healthcare in somebody else's hands. But
It's
we really
supposed to be
have to
a team.
own it.
It's supposed to be about the team process here. I wanted to talk really quickly here. Before, we don't have much time, but I want to just quickly talk about SOD. Clinical study confirms efficacy of SOD for regression.